Kemi Badenoch, known as Kemi Badenoch, is a prominent British Conservative politician who holds several high-profile positions in the United Kingdom government. Her outspoken views on race, gender, and culture make her a highly divisive figure. But supporters see her as a bold defender of common sense and free speech, while critics accuse her of downplaying racism and opposing progress on equality. She is widely seen as a potential future leader of the Conservative Party. Her full name reflects her Nigerian heritage. Kemi and Olufunto are Yoruba names. But she is widely known publicly by her shortened name, Kemi. She was born on January 2, 1980 in Wimbledon, London, England. She spent her very early years in the United Kingdom. When she was around 5 years old, her parents moved the family back to Nigeria and grew up primarily in Lagos and also spent time in Alabama, United States with her grandparents during some holidays. At age 16, she returned to the United Kingdom briefly for sixth form but found it difficult to adjust and went back to Nigeria to finish her O-levels. At age 19, she moved to the United States, specifically Tuskegee, Alabama to study at university. She returned to the United Kingdom permanently at age 25 to work in information technology, later studying law at the University of Sussex before entering politics. Kemi Badenoch has referenced her parents' background and financial challenges in Nigeria in several public statements, though she typically frames it as a narrative of resilience and upward mobility rather than sustained poverty. She highlighted her family's humble West Africa origins and emphasized that they grew up without electricity or running water. Her mother started working at 14 to support her siblings. They came to Britain with nothing but grit and hope. This refers to her parents' childhood in rural Nigeria, not her own upbringing, emphasizing their journey from poverty to professional success. She contrasted her parents' values with modern welfare systems. In Nigeria, there was no welfare state. If you did not work, you starved. Her parents taught her self-reliance. They never complained about hardship, they overcame it. She implies financial constraints shaped the work ethic, but avoids claiming they struggled to make ends meet after becoming doctors. She invoked her family's story to criticize dependency, and her grandparents were farmers with no safety net. Her parents became doctors through sheer will. That is why she believes in empowering people, not trapping them in benefits. She clarified when pressed about her privileged education in private school that her parents scrimped for their schooling and were not rich but invested everything in education. Badenoch's rhetoric focuses on values, hard work, and education rather than detailed socioeconomic analysis. Critics argued she oversimplifies her family's mobility by ignoring the privilege of having doctor parents in Nigeria. But supporters see it as an authentic immigrant success story. In essence, she acknowledges past struggles but positions them as overcome through determination, aligning with her ideological rejection of systemic explanations for inequality. Kemi Badenoch's high school education, secondary A-levels, involved multiple countries and institutions due to her family's movements. She returned to the United Kingdom alone at age 16 to attend Phoenix College in London. This was for her sixth form final 2 years secondary school, focusing on A-levels in biology, chemistry and mathematics. However, she found the adjustment difficult and left after a short period, less than a year. After leaving Phoenix College, she returned to Nigeria to complete her A-levels at the private Igbenedion Education Center in Nigeria. She graduated from secondary school in Nigeria around 1999. She earned the qualifications needed for university entrance. She has spoken about the challenges of moving between educational systems and cultures during her teenage years, particularly finding her brief time in the United Kingdom's sixth form difficult before returning to finish in Nigeria. After completing her O-levels in Nigeria, she moved to the Tuskegee, United States, Alabama at age 19 to study computer systems engineering at Tuskegee University. Growing up in Nigeria and America reflect the complexity of her formative years across different countries. She was born to Nigerian parents from Yoruba of Ondo Ekanmogun, Ondo West local government area of Ondo State. Her father, Femi Badenoch, was a general practitioner doctor before pursuing other ventures and became an activist for the rights for the Yoruba people. Her mother Faye Badenoch was a professor of physiology at the University of Lagos. Her mother had traveled from Nigeria to the United Kingdom for medical treatment, and gave birth in St. Teresa's Maternity Hospital, before the British Nationality Act 1981 abolished automatic birthright citizenship for those born in the United Kingdom, and then returned to Nigeria shortly after Kemi Badenoch was born. Badenoch denied claims she was an anchor baby, and asserted that her family did not know she was in fact eligible for a British passport until she was a teenager. She is one of 3 children born to Nigerian Yoruba parents. She has a brother and a sister. So, while born in London, her formative childhood and teenage years were predominantly spent in Lagos, Nigeria, with significant time also in Alabama, the United States for her university education. She considers both the United Kingdom and Nigeria as places where she grew up. Kemi Badenoch's first marriage was with James Wilson, an information technology consultant, a banker and prominent British politician. They got married in the early 2000s while both were working in information technology. The marriage ended in divorce after a few years. She used the surname Wilson professionally during this period or in early tech roles. No confirmed relationships between her divorce from James Wilson and her marriage to Hamish Badenoch. The current marriage was since 2012 to present. She is married with Hamish Badenoch, a former banker and management consultant. They have 3 children together, 2 daughters and a son. The family resides in Great Waltham, Essex. Hamish has largely stayed out of the public eye, supporting Badenoch's political career privately. After marrying Hamish, she adopted the surname Badenoch professionally and personally. Badenoch maintains a strict boundary between her public role and private family life, rarely discussing her relationships or children in media. Her marriage to Hamish Badenoch has remained stable throughout her political rise since her election as MP in 2017. Kemi Badenoch does not hate Africa. There is no credible evidence to support claims that she holds a grudge against the continent. Such assertions appear to stem from misinterpretations of her political statements, particularly regarding governance, post-colonial relations, and international policy. Criticism often centers on 2 themes. Anti-corruption stance. Badenoch has criticized corrupt governance in some African nations, citing Nigeria's oil wealth mismanagement. This reflects her conservative principles, not contempt for Africa. She similarly criticizes corruption globally. Opposition to identity politics. She rejects framing policy through colonial guilt or racial identity, including calls for slavery reparations to African governments. In 2022, she argued sending cash to corrupt governments will not help the poor. This pragmatic view targets governance, not African people or history. As Trade Secretary, she actively promoted partnerships with African nations such as Kenya and Nigeria under post-Brexit deals. She supports the United Kingdom's asylum partnership with Rwanda, a policy opposed by many African leaders. Her stance is rooted in border control, not antipathy toward Africa. South Africa vs. Israel International Court of Justice case. Badenoch criticized South Africa's genocide case against Israel, calling it divisive. This reflects United Kingdom foreign policy alignment with Israel, not animus toward Africa. Some activists and political opponents misrepresent her views, such as equating her criticism of African governments with anti-African racism, framing her opposition to reparations as denial of colonial harm. Badenoch rejects these labels, emphasizing her focus on progress through partnership, not paternalism. Kemi Badenoch's policy positions stem from her conservative ideology, anti-corruption advocacy, and commitment to United Kingdom national interests, not a grudge against Africa. Her critiques of governance are consistent with her broader political philosophy. Claims of hatred oversimplify complex debates and ignore her lived experience as a British Nigerian woman. Kemi Badenoch's relationship with advocacy for African people is complex and debated, largely because her political philosophy prioritizes universal principles like individual liberty, meritocracy, and anti-corruption over identity-based solidarity. Kemi Badenoch is currently serving as the leader of the opposition and leader of the Conservative Party in the United Kingdom, a position she has held since November 2024. Prior to this role, she held various cabinet positions under Prime Ministers Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak, including Secretary of State for Business and Trade. She was appointed to this position in February 2023, overseeing business and investment responsibilities. Secretary of State for International Trade and President of the Board of Trade. Badenoch held this role from September 2022 to February 7, 2023, promoting British trade and commerce globally. Minister for Women and Equalities. She also served as Minister for Women and Equalities, focusing on promoting equality and women's rights. As leader of the opposition, Badenoch is now responsible for leading the Conservative Party and holding the Labour government accountable for their policies. Kemi Badenoch's professional records, spanning her careers in technology, law, and politics. Worked on information technology infrastructure for financial services as systems analyst at Logica from 2003 to 2006. Developed banking software solutions as software engineer at Coutts & Company from 2006 to 2008. Led digital transformation projects as Associate Director at RBS Royal Bank of Scotland from 2008 to 2010. Her key skills include software development, project management and systems architecture. Focused on mergers and financial regulation as corporate law clerk at Allen & Overy from 2013-2014. Advised tech startups on Internet protocol and compliance as legal freelance consultant from 2015 to 2017. MP for Saffron Walden, now Essex West and South Cambridgeshire, elected with 63% vote share in 2017. Re-elected with 61% vote share in 2019. Re-elected share official declaration in 2024. Exchequer Secretary to the Treasury from 2020-2021. Minister for Equalities in 2021 to 2024. Secretary of State for International Trade from 2022-2023. Secretary of State for Business and Trade from 2023. President of the Board of Trade 2022. Finalised post-Brexit deals with Australia, New Zealand, and CPTPP Asia-Pacific bloc. Launched developing countries trading scheme tariff cuts for over 65 nations, including Africa. Inclusive Britain report in 2022. Roadmap to address racial disparities in education, healthcare, and policing. Gender Recognition Act opposed self-ID reforms, emphasizing biological sex protections. Digital Markets Bill. Regulations targeting big tech monopolies. Brexit freedoms. Scrap EU-era business regulations such as GDPR reforms. Consistently supported conservative policies on austerity, Brexit, and immigration. Opposed LGBTQ+ reforms such as same-sex marriage in Northern Ireland. Landmark speech against critical race theory in UK institutions in 2021. Defended the Rwanda asylum policy at the United Nations Human Rights Council in 2023. Kemi Badenoch has not authored any full-length books, but she has written op-eds and political commentary, government reports and policy papers, speeches at the United Nations, Davos, Party Conference, and holds high office cabinet minister since 2021 with intense demands. Her influence is channeled through policy and legislation rather than long-form writing. Kemi Badenoch has received several notable recognitions and awards, primarily for her political influence and policy work. Privy Councillor conferred by Queen Elizabeth II in 2022. The Right Honourable, which is a lifelong title granted to senior United Kingdom government ministers, entitling her to the style. 2023 Time 100 Next list that recognized her as a rising global figure shaping post-Brexit Britain international trade policy. Conservative Home's Top 10 Most Influential Tories. Annual ranking of Conservative Party influence by grassroots members. Received Parliamentary Award, shortlisted as Backbencher of the Year in 2019. Awarded by The Spectator magazine for her vocal advocacy for Brexit and scrutiny of government policy. Politician of the Year nominee in 2022. Awarded by The Spectator for leadership during the United Kingdom leadership crisis and stance on gender ideology. Nominee for African Leadership magazine Person of the Year in 2023 by Global African. Villain of the Year 2023 by LGBTQ+ charity Stonewall for blocking gender recognition reforms. Kemi Badenoch's net worth is not officially disclosed, but estimates based on public records, salaries, property, and career history is approximately $2 million. Here is a breakdown of known income and assets. Key wealth sources include ministerial salary as ministerial top-up. Pre-politics careers as a systems analyst, consultant Logica, RBS and Law at Allen & Overy and as a freelance consultant. Property holdings, investments and spouses' wealth are significant assets. Most wealth accrued through salaries, not inheritance or business ventures. Kemi Badenoch's residences, based on public records and disclosures, are as follows. Current primary residence at Great Waltham, Essex. It is detached family home that is jointly owned with her husband, Hamish Badenoch, near her constituency at Saffron Walden, now Essex West and South Cambridgeshire. Past residences include the childhood homes in Wimbledon, London, where she was born and lived briefly until age 5. Kemi Badenoch's use of vehicles is not extensively documented in public records. Here is a verified summary based on official disclosures, public appearances, and United Kingdom transparency rules. No personal luxury vehicles declared, but primary commuting methods include train, which she frequently used to commute from Essex to London Liverpool Street Station for parliamentary work. As a cabinet minister, she has access to government-pooled vehicles with drivers for official duties such as attending Downing Street meetings and international events. Walking, public transport, and often walks or uses the tube within London. However, she owns family cars such as practical SUV and sedan for personal use in Essex, given her suburban residence and family needs. As a senior minister, her travel involves close protection security when deemed necessary by the Metropolitan Police. This includes armored vehicles for high-risk events, and details are classified. Kemi Badenoch's contributions to society span policy, advocacy, charitable activities and ideological influence, though often polarizing but undeniably impactful. Here is a balanced analysis of her key societal contributions across domains. Direct charity involvement includes as a board trustee. Sex Matters from 2020-2021 when she supported this gender-critical advocacy group. Registered charity before becoming Equalities Minister. Resigned upon ministerial appointment to avoid conflicts of interest. Advocated for this LGBTQ+ charity focused on biological sex protections. Not in a formal fundraising role but as an LGB Alliance patronage. Championed the Developing Countries Trading Scheme. Policy-driven initiatives by Developing Countries Trading Scheme in 2023. And eliminated tariffs on goods from over 65 low-income nations such as Nigeria, Kenya, boosting their economies in the form of structural philanthropy. As Equalities Minister, she secured £125 million for shelters and support services in 2022 for domestic violence funding. Personal donations include £500 to a local Essex youth club, books, and items donated to schools in her constituency. Hosted a charity auction in 2023 for Conservative Party funds, not a charitable cause. Attended industry-sponsored charity galas such as Tech UK dinners, though primarily as a policymaker of fundraising and events. During economic empowerment and trade, global trade access. She negotiated post-Brexit deals for CPTPP United Kingdom versus Australia and New Zealand to boost British exports, creating jobs and market opportunities. Spearheaded the Digital Markets, Competition and Consumers Act in 2024 to break big tech monopolies and protect small businesses. Reformed GDPR to reduce compliance burdens for SMEs. Expanded apprenticeships in tech and engineering to address workforce gaps. Pushed STEM funding for underrepresented groups. Advocated merit-based advancement, opposing lowered expectations for minority students. Galvanized conservative pushback against critical race theory (CRT) and identity politics, arguing they divide society. Framed equality as individual meritocracy, not group-based redress. Rejected reparations for slavery, colonialism but advocating trade, over aid partnerships with Africa. Shifted United Kingdom policy towards sovereign equality for Rwanda asylum deal as mutual benefit. Argued that Rwanda asylum plan would deter human trafficking, though criticized for ethical and legal concerns. Scaled back green targets, net zero delays to protect household budgets, prioritizing short-term economic relief. She avoids photo ops with charities. Her focus is systemic reform or personal philanthropy. She supports charities advancing her views on gender-critical and anti-identity politics.